Awesome. Okay, so you can hear me. Hi. So today's video is going to be a little shorter than the other ones. So welcome to my 31 days of going live in here. I wanted to talk more about this topic because a lot more people are waking up, right? Waking up from this programming that we're given, to participate in this old world order, this old one world order, this old earth infrastructure that we were creating momentum towards. And when you are having awakenings, right, these happen, they don't happen because you're looking for them. Other people might induce it, through doing drugs and whatnot, right? I'm talking about the ones that just happen when you're not looking for them, the ones that you're actually doing the active work to integrate, to really stabilize your nervous system so that you can hold the whole message, not the fractured message, right? So when I had my Kundalini awakening, I wasn't looking for it. I was literally just meditating, um, from following the internal nudge to take um, a step away from the chaos that was happening, that got activated after I went through therapy. And I remembered some stuff that was very destabilizing, and I was feeling quite suicidal. And then I went to the hospital, and then at the hospital is when I had this epiphany that, hey, I should write down what I'm looking for in a husband, right? And this was the universe. I didn't know at that time that this was a way for the universe to trick me into really meditating and clarifying how it feels to be whole. Because back then, I used to believe that to be whole, I need to attract my person. I need to attract my soulmate, which is what a lot of these twin flame communities, these soulmate communities, a lot of um, people who are coaches who train you to attract your person. They train you from the fractured embodiment instead of actually saying, hey, you need to be whole. You need to see the beauty in just who you are, even if you haven't achieved what you want to achieve. They make you believe that being high value is a goal, whereas actually being high value has always been within you. We want to remove the distortion that made you believe you weren't, and created these results you lived through in the past. So there's a lot of um, confusion, right, that is being created in the mainstream media. And when there's confusion, there's things happen slower because people are digesting what is not in alignment with divine order, right? So as you're awakening, you're gonna notice you are very repulsed by a lot of information online, right? Even if when you've been following someone, it doesn't hit the way it used to hit anymore, because this is your nervous system recalibrating to you being the true authority, you being the one who leads all the information that goes in your body, and how it's directed, and which one is thrown out, which one is actually used, which one is actually set with, which one is actually um, um, considered, right? It's all you. And we are trained that this role that I just mentioned is outside of us. It's in a man. It's in a male physical body, right? And this is where a lot of us, right, subconsciously wait for men, or for Jesus or God to come and save us, right? Whereas that union happens within you. It's when your soul and your human marry each other, right? They have a divine union where it's a conscious relationship between your human and your soul, and you get to decide, like, oh, okay, who's leading right now, right? Who, because you're human, it moves, navigates the third dimensional reality on earth, right? Your soul is five dimensional. It's beyond this three dimension that we're living in, that we're physically in. It's beyond, it's eternal, right? So there's a dance, a spiritual dance that happens, right? Where you know where to go in and where you go out, right? But when that where you go in and when you go out is creating chaos, is out of order, this is where you start creating chaos in your life, right? You start telling people information that they're not ready for, and they look at you like you're crazy or you're funny, right? This is where you start like saying stuff, right, where it's not grounded in third dimension reality. People think, you look at you like, oh my gosh, this person has lost it. They've mania. They've got bipolar, which they are real mental illnesses, right? I'm not diagnosing anyone, but I'm talking about the patterns of behavior, right? When you haven't really created an architecture that protects and honors this relationship between your human and your soul, it becomes easier to become so disillusioned. Like the wall between the physical reality and the spiritual world, it dissolves, right? And you don't have anything to contain you. You don't have anything. So it's like water. When you pour water and there's no glass, it spills, right? So it's the same way. Your consciousness is just spilling ish, right? Because it's not contained. So when people see it, there's no context. There's no glass. There's no there's no a swimming pool to hold the water. They don't understand, well, where's the water going? What is holding it? What's the context, right? And because we are inside ourselves, we understand the context, right? But because of our impatience, and we're so impatient because we already, our soul knows where we are. We're so impatient, right? Our humans are, okay, I'm just gonna say it right now, instead of actually doing the work to create, to digest the information, so that you build the context, right? You go and grab the glass, you go and find the swimming pool so you can pull the water in, so you can go and clean the swimming pool, so you get the next information, like, oh, okay, what am I doing? Where am I creating the container? How is it gonna look? What is it? What is the container, right? And because there's not much information on this liminal space, there's no context, there's no because it's hidden, right? So outside it looks like you're not successful, it looks like you're not doing anything, you're slowing down, you've lost motivation. But the truth is that you're actually digesting information and building something that nobody else can see. And a lot of people confuse this with failure. And oftentimes, too, because they're subconsciously fearing failure, they inflate their ego, right, to compensate for this feeling of like, oh my gosh, in 3D dimension, I don't really have what other people consider success. So I'm going to inflate my ego to compensate for that, so that I protect my dignity. So it's like a survival response, right? And I used to do this too. So I'm just, of course, I'm speaking from experience, right? How would I understand all of this without any context? So I've noticed, like, with the spiritual community, a lot of people are like, oh, we've come to save the world, right? We are the chosen ones. Oh, that word. We're the chosen, we're the 144,000, we're the ones who are going to make it to heaven. Everyone else is going to perish. It is what it is, you know what I mean? Or there's this subconscious way of perceiving the other, right? People who haven't gotten it. Where even like I grew up in a Christian household, and you'd see it, right? There's like this judgment of people who don't look and perform the Christian way, right? Christian people look as a certain way, they speak a certain way, they carry themselves a certain way, right? It becomes like an egoic, inflated ego um, um, personality. It's not actually rooted in humility, where you're like, you know what, um, God is not going to leave anyone behind, right? So that means this ego inflation is just my own chip on the shoulder. There's no that level of awareness, right? Because they're always projecting that lack of holding themselves accountable for how they invest their energy onto the other, right? And Christians are not the only ones who do it. It's just a pattern, a behavior pattern I'm talking about, where being chosen makes you feel better about yourself. And this pattern is also similar in relationships, right? When we talk about the other woman, um, or the chosen woman, right? Because women tend to, because we live, well, the patriarchal society is dying, right? And women tend to subconsciously fight for men, like they compete for men, right? Because men in the old world order, they provided safety, they provided survival, because we weren't able to go to the bank, we weren't able to buy our own home. The man was the way to access the world and stability and safety. So women subconsciously, right, want to be chosen. They find validity and worth, self-worth and safety in being the chosen woman. So they're even willing to botch their bodies in order to 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 become this um, person who fits the ideal, the male's ideal of like, oh, this is my due woman, right? Which is all based on fantasy, right? So they are willing to abandon their own enoughness in order to be chosen by a guy, because their worth is rooted in that, right? But they haven't developed the capacity to be aware of the fact that, you know, they are the ones who are creating this internal motivation to dissociate from themselves. And this will be so triggering for many people, right? This work is not for everybody. I'll tell you that. It's going to be so triggering because it takes a lot of responsibility, radical responsibility, for you to be so powerful. A lot of people want this fake power, this artificial power, right? That looks nice, it glistens on the outside, but it's empty inside. There's nothing inside, right? They're very good at marketing themselves, but inside it's empty, right? You're wasting people's time and energy, and then you're like, oh, I'm having such a bad time. Instead of actually looking within, like, what am I advertising within? What am I hiding from myself, right? And this is not about the other. This is about the other within yourself, not the other outside of you. The other outside of you is pointing back to the other within yourself that you have rejected, right? So with having these mystical experiences, we want to belong to people who are sane, to people who don't have access to this information. So we reject this part of us that has reached these parts of consciousness that many will not even have access to, right? And we reject it because we don't have someone mirroring back to us like, hey, yeah, this is what's going on. Because this phase of your life is meant to be an intimate experience between you and your creator, God, right? Source. It's not meant to be understood and digested by everybody. It's meant to be digested and understood by you, experiencing it through your nervous system. And because we're so addicted to thinking, right? It's hard to find the words of what you're going through. And oftentimes people, like in the old world, it's on in old earth, they when they don't understand something, they just make logical assumption that, oh, it has to be this, right? And what we're understanding right now through actual research, the science is catching up to spirituality. It's not the other way around. Spirituality is not catching up to science. Science is catching up to spirituality. So what you're experiencing, it's sacred. You want to treat it as sacred. whatever it is, you want to always hold space for your wholeness, your duality, the good side and the bad side. So this thing of God and the devil, it's allegory of what is going on within you, the conflict happening within you, right? World peace is not out there, it's within you. It happens within you, in your embodiment, how you carry yourself based on all this information that's active within you. Because once you hold space for all this part that's going on within you, right, you are able to to um to be so comfortable in your presence, in your humanness, right? So even if it's not pretty, even if your behaviors don't emulate society's projection of perfection, you're good with yourself. You're like whatever, right? Even if another person sees a part of you that's not that's unflattering, you're good with yourself because you've met all these parts within you. They're at home within you, right? So even if somebody takes it and amplifies it and magnifies it, it's not gonna bother you because it's you. You've met that part. It's safe within you, right? They can't take it away from you, right? They can't manipulate it away from you because it is integrated within you. And that's what you are unconsciously seeking when you are creating this identity that inflates who you really are, right? That covers this part that feels really small, right? Because when you have ego death, right, it is actually, ego death is not enlightenment. Ego death is actually your identity, your old identity retrieving so that the new identity becomes revealed, right? So when that ego death dies, we unconsciously are trying to compensate for that ego that has died. But that's just the way we make that that pivot slower, because you're getting in the place of your soul instead of actually bowing down and letting your soul take over. Because your soul is eternal, your soul is inherent. Your ego is not stable, it's always going up and down, up and down, up and down, left, right, center, right? So you want to actually build and invest into the thing that is consistent throughout, right? So you see your ego, so ego is not bad. The wounded ego is the one that's bad. It's the one that dies, right? It's the one that has that ego death. But your soul's ego, your soul's identity, ego, right? Here I'm using it as a ego as an identity, perception of self. Your ego's, your soul's identity. There's no mirror. There's no nothing you're hiding behind. Your soul's identity just is, right? And your soul identity gives you information, the next step, over and over and over again. The next step, over and over and over again. It's that quiet intuition, voice that's connected to your intuition. And when you're not listening to it, that's when life becomes harder. That's when you're always in your head. But when you're listening to it, you're open. Your heart is open. There's trust. You're just relaxing. You're just chilling. You're slowing down. Slowing down is not a problem. And when you want to go out, you want to go hard, you want to hustle, you intuitively know, like, no, that's not in alignment, right? And you start deprogramming, deconditioning yourself from this programming from the old world that made you a slave, so you can be enslaved to the system, so that you can feed into their whole power grid, because they have no souls. They need souls to power that ish, right? But we are all awakening to all of this, realizing, like, man, they don't exist without us, right? And there was something else I wanted to say. Mystical power is more powerful than ego power, because mystical power has nothing to prove. It just is. It understands the eternity of everything. There's nothing to prove. The ego, when it's trying to prove stuff and to become something and to rule the world, it often comes from a lack of wholeness, from a lack of being connected to your soul. So this is why I designed the Sovereign Return Devotional. This is a tool that you use to actually really build this architecture between your soul and your human, so that you know what to share with other people. You know um, what is yours, what not to share yet, and what you can share with who, right? It gives you clarity, gives you that internal space within yourself where you're like, oh, okay, this is mine, this is what I can share, this is not what I can share. Oh, this person is not ready for my information. And even if they're not ready for your information, and when you share it, you know how to integrate that information. You don't collapse or make it all about, oh, um, they're saying this part of me, they think I'm crazy. No, you don't need to create those stories. You can pivot from that. It's all information, right? So the Sovereign Return Devotional, it helps you really clean up your energy so that that architecture between your soul and human becomes, you know, it it's right there in your face. You can't unsee it. So it'll be available in a couple of days. Actually, I haven't uploaded it yet. I have a couple of finishing touches. But yeah, probably by the time you see this video, it'll be on there. So keep an eye out. Otherwise, see you on the other side. I'm curious, actually, what um, triggered you the most? What did you resonate with the most? Leave it in the comment section. I live for your comment section. All right, see you on the other side.